Do your job.
Marcos Viegas for FightHubTV.com, standing here with Gary Shaw. Gary, a few big things happened in the world in MMA a few weeks back. One being the UFC buying out Strikeforce. You, of course, being tied with Elite XC a few years back. I wanted to get your reaction. Do you think this buyout is good? What are your thoughts on it?
Great for the UFC. Fertitta's brilliant move. For the fighters, terrible move, because they don't have another place to really go and bargain. So, if you ask me as a businessman, I think it's brilliant on part of UFC. I'm not even sure that when Strikeforce's contract is up with Showtime, that they just don't fold it into the UFC at that point, just make it a pay-per-view. So for the fans, it's bad. For the fighters, it's bad. For the UFC, it's terrific.
Why is it, do you think, it's going to be bad for the fans? Because now the fans, I guess, get to see these matchups with, Fedor and Kane, or Alistair Overeem and Cain Velasquez, or Brock Lesnar.
Because any time that you force fans to pay pay-per-view for every single card you put on, then you're screwing the fans. Not every card is a pay-per-view value. Some are just general good TV value, and then the special ones are pay-per-view value. So I feel the fans get screwed.
You being a businessman, do you feel that the UFC will go through with keeping Strikeforce for 2 years like they planned, or do you think they're just going to absorb them, at a certain time frame?
I think they'll absorb them right into the UFC as soon as the contract's up with Showtime. I'll be surprised if the UFC changes their model and gives away fights for free. I don't see it.
The UFC just bought out Strikeforce. They bought out their competition. They can make fights with Fedor now, with Brock Lesnar and everybody else. Can boxing, I guess, conceivably ever be able to do something the equivalent of what the UFC did with Strikeforce? Could Top Rank go out and buy Golden Boy? Do you think that would ever happen? That's even in the slightest frame of mind for him to be able to make these fights happen?
Well, some would say also, is it good? That I'm not passing judgment one way or the other on the UFC owning everything. They do. They've been able to do it in that sport, and have, to their credit, have made it very interesting for the fans. The Strikeforce thing was a little different. That was the first time they've actually had, I think, a true contender, somebody that would push them, and it would be worthwhile of them thinking, oh, we have to buy these people. I've never bought people out before, but the question, I guess, and it's a philosophical question: do you want competition, or do you want someone to be able to put all the fighters together? Now, in other sports, clearly, if there was no Major League Baseball or National Football League, we might never see the Dallas Cowboys play the Chicago Bears, or the Oakland A's play the San Francisco Giants, or whatever. I could go on and on, because maybe they wouldn't want to do it for some reason. You obviously want that to happen, but I don't think boxing's a situation where you could have a monopoly like that. I just don't think it would fly.
We just saw the UFC, they bought out Strikeforce, and the first question that comes up to my mind is, now they're able to make the fights that the fans want to see. Is Golden Boy ever thought about buying the other promoters in boxing, or is that something that's inconceivable?
Well, look, I mean, the MMA is just a whole different animal compared to boxing. What we can do is just do our own thing, with Golden Boy, is just try to make the best fights possible. We want to work with all the promoters. We want to work with every promoter. And we're working with Gary Shaw, we're working with Lou DiBella, we're working with every single promoter out there except for Top Rank, which doesn't want to work with us. So it's very unfortunate, but we're in this business for the long run. I'm 38 years of age. Richard, my CEO, he's also very young. We're going to promote the sport for a long time, so we're going to continue doing what we're doing, and eventually boxing will have the best fights possible.
Oscar, always a pleasure. Thanks. I just want to ask one question. Recently, the UFC bought out their competition. They bought out Strikeforce, so now they're able to make fights that fans want to see. I want to know, is it inconceivable to think that Top Rank could go out and buy other promoters to make the fights that fans want to see?
Well, I don't know what the laws are, but there seems there's an antitrust problem somewhere. But all credit to UFC for buying out Strikeforce. That's a great way to make your competition disappear.
Bob, thank you very much.